Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, whatever the outcome of the referendum, Europe will no doubt play a big part in the never-ending saga that is becoming the Tory leadership contest. Because in a way there is one. It's low-key, but it's happening. The party faithful are already being wooed by some of the runners and riders. Not that they're declaring anything in public, of course. But here's our Adam.
Love is in the air, everywhere I look around. Love is in the air. Every sight and every sound.
There's been a lot of wooing at Westminster ever since David Cameron let slip he wouldn't seek a third term. The Chancellor has been dining new Tory MPs at number 11. Boris has been holding takeaway curry nights in his office, and Theresa May, well, none of that's really her style.
And it's there when I look in your eyes.
Hi James. Hi Adam, how are you? Good, thank you. Happy Valentine's Day.
Here's my date, James Forsyth, political editor of The Spectator. And it's not romantic music in the background, it's Europe.
What's the point of talking about the Tory leadership contest at this point?
Because I think it's informing how people are behaving when it comes to the question of deciding whether to back in or out come the EU referendum. The broad assumption in the Tory party is that one of the two people sent by the MPs to the party membership to pick from for the next leader will have backed out in the referendum. And I think that is a factor in several politicians' calculations right now.
But as I discovered, the frontrunners are being very coy about it all.
I thought you were doing a programme about Europe. What are you doing? What's this about?
We're doing a programme about the Tory leadership
the
now.
Tory leadership.
Yeah.
There is. What on earth is the relevance of that to your many millions of viewers when you consider that there is no, thankfully, there is no vacancy for that position, and nor is there going to be one.
Okay.
For a very long time to come.
Any plans for Valentine's Day?
There certainly are. Not involving you so far.
Okay, thank you. Happy Valentine's Day. See you.
Oh well, maybe I'll get lucky with some of the other cabinet contenders. Apparently Health Secretary Jeremy Hunt might be up for it. Speculation surrounds the Welsh Secretary Stephen Crabb. Education Secretary Nicky Morgan wants a female candidate, preferably her. DEFRA Secretary Liz Truss is reputed to be ambitious. There were mutterings about Business Secretary Sajid Javid, but is he really angling to be the next Chancellor? And is a leadership bid while Michael Gove is swithering over which side to back in the referendum? And there's more, a lot more, from old-timers to newcomers. Energy Minister Andrea Leadsom is holding surgeries in the Commons tea room. A mystery member of the 2015 intake is rumoured to have big plans. Employment Minister and arch Eurosceptic Priti Patel is expected to have a profile-boosting role in the Out campaign. And then there's Liam Fox. Liam Fox? This week, a poll on the website run by Paul Goodman found that the former Defence Secretary was favourite among Tory activists.
Dr. Fox got a fifth of the vote, and if you speculate that the hard right of Conservative Party membership is about a fifth of it, that sounds fair enough. What was remarkable about his score was in fact how low it was. It was the joint lowest score for a leading candidate we've ever had.
A lot of this is total nonsense, but it presages potentially 3 years of Tory leadership gossip for the people who love this sort of stuff.
Our Adam talking about us, I think. Now let's assume the three of you are wrong. Let's assume that we vote to leave the European Union. I would suggest, Polly, if that happens, not only would the Tory party be in a mother of all leadership crisis, the country will be in the middle of a huge political crisis.
Terrible crisis. It would go on for years. It'll take at least 2 years of very painful negotiations. It may be longer to get us out of all these treaties. Nobody's ever done it before. Nobody knows what this is going to look like. And the Tory party would be in considerable turmoil. Cameron would have to go. The humiliation would be appalling. And
Mr. Osborne?
Osborne's chances would be absolutely shot to pieces. And we would be left with, and by then the country might have changed its mind and might be very upset by having narrowly voted against for getting out. They might then be regretting it. And then where does that leave whoever the future leader is?
Tim, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think this whole contest will boil down to several binary choices. There's in and out of Europe, that's a factor. There's George Osborne and not George Osborne. there's Boris Johnson and not Boris Johnson, there's woman and man, and within the sort of putting all those things together, depending on the circumstances, we'll find a leader. There's young and old as well. You know, the 2015 intake are getting a bit bored of hearing about how George Osborne's nearly inevitable, and if it's not him, it'd be Boris Johnson. And they're thinking about, you know, running one of their own as well. So there are names that we haven't even considered that may enter the fray if it's in 2 or 3 years' time.
If David Cameron has to go, he may not go immediately, but if he has to go, he'll certainly be the walking wounded all through the summer and into the autumn. Mr. Osborne probably, as Polly says, the same. It kind of throws everything open, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. I mean, there's a lot of chat going around amongst ministers about what does happen if we vote to leave. You could see the Prime Minister might say, well, we trigger Article 50 of the Lisbon Treaty and that's a 2-year negotiation and I should do that, to which the Conservative Party blow a large raspberry and say, don't be ridiculous. One school of thought is that the Prime Minister would bring in David Davis as Deputy Prime Minister and would maybe lead the Brexit negotiations. I can't see that. I think there would be a leadership contest, and the defining issue of that leadership contest would be who is the best person to lead those Brexit negotiations. And you would therefore assume that a minister who had said that we should leave would be best placed to do that. But maybe it would be possible to have a minister who said we should be in, but was maybe not wholly involved in the Remain campaign, who had a pretty good Eurosceptic track record.
So we're back to Boris Johnson.
And then you're into Theresa May sort of territory.
Or Boris Johnson.
Possibly. Is Boris Johnson, do you really want him negotiating the future of Britain in a treaty over 2 years? Interesting question. But that's how it'll be defined, and
I
that's
think
all
Boris
become leader.
Johnson's position will be considerably weaker than anyone thinks because of this dither. It is so transparent, so nakedly a matter of ambition, whether he's for in or for out. I mean, this is something where anybody who's interested in politics feels passionately, basically, in or out. And he can't pretend to be waiting for these minor negotiations on this fundamental issue that he's tackled with all his life.
Even if we vote to remain, what's your view on what is sometimes said is that even if we vote to remain, the Conservatives, whose heart would not have been in remaining, will want someone to lead them after Mr. Cameron? It'll be much later now, but after Mr. Cameron, who was Brexit.
I think there's a strong case for that. Most of the polls suggest that 70% of the Conservative grassroots is a Brexiteer. But also there are polls that show, you know, to speak up for Boris, that he is wildly more popular than any other Conservative. And there are Conservative MPs who will look at those polls. If you look at the one that's in the Independent this morning, he is the only mainstream politician who has a positive rating. And that you know, there are people. This is a two-stage process, a Conservative election. The MPs put you on the ballot paper.
Yes.
The grassroots people select. You've got
down to two. Only two names go to the grassroots.
Go forward. So you've got to get past the MPs, and then you've got to make your case to the wider party.
I mean, if Boris gets through to being one of the final two, given his popularity with the Tory grassroots, now it could change, it may be skin deep, I don't know, but wouldn't he be kind of unstoppable?
Well, if he gets through, he doesn't have a huge backing at Westminster. There's a lot of MPs who don't really know him. Also, will he survive the rigours of a campaign? We saw that interview on the Andrew Marr show with Eddie Mair last year when he faced some rather awkward questions about his good friend Darius Guppy. So you've got to assume that he's going to get through that process. But can I just say, we're talking about this is a contest after we voted to stay in. Important lesson from 1975. Harold Wilson was massively strengthened after that win.
Yes.
What did he do? He moved Tony Benn out of the crucial post of industry because he was very, very strong. The Prime Minister will be pretty strong after he gets voted.
That historic lesson. We'll have to leave it there.
I've been getting away with it all